Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today is potentially the most anticipated Haolonggood review yet, or at least as far as I'm concerned, because we've got my favorite dinosaur ever. We have the Carnotaurus, and as you can see, there are two boxes because we have two different paint variants for this figure, so I'm very much so excited to check both of them out. You can see the boxes look pretty nice, but pretty much they are your standard when it comes to Haolonggood. You have a nice kind of an image of the skeletal reconstruction of the Carnotaurus in both boxes, and both boxes I believe are the same. Once you turn it around, yeah, you can see the back basically has like the blue skeleton, and then the front has like a pinkish kind of a skeleton. But if you turn the box over and you look up here at the top, you can see quite a few of the other releases that are out currently from Haolonggood, all of which we have reviewed here on the channel, and a whole lot of information on the underside as well. So let's go ahead, pop these boxes open, because honestly I cannot wait any longer to check out these Carnotaurus. Here is the very first one, looking very nice, and then here is the second one, and as you can see, we have kind of like a grayish version. We've also got a reddish version. I really like this one. It's like a reddish brown, and it's got really cool coloration. I like generally in both of them because of like the really cool patterning. You can see just really nice kind of like subtle spots and designs and stuff as you move through. But they're both really nice looking here again at first glance. Definitely two incredibly cool Carnotaurus, and I'm beyond excited to actually have a Carnotaurus from Haolonggood, something that I honestly didn't see coming, and I don't know why. It was just one species of dinosaur I just didn't see them making anytime soon, but I am beyond pleasantly surprised to see that they have. And again, really, really nice looking overall when it comes to both the sculpt and paint. Both have really, really nice paint jobs as always. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at both of these right now. So we'll begin with the one that I would say is probably my favorite of the two, and that would be the kind of reddish brown version. And you can see sculpt wise the face looks really nice, very impressive skin texture throughout. It looks really good, really vibrant. The quality of the figure is really nice as well. You can see the nostrils sculpted out. I like that there's, as always, quite a bit of variation of color here in the face. As you can see, quite a few different variations of like darker tones and lighter tones. You have like light reddish browns, almost like pinkish tones kind of. You've also got darker, almost like brownish tones kind of mixed with black as you move through the face. You can also see that there in the eye area, kind of bordering around the eye, heading up toward the horn of our Carnotaurus. The eye is painted with a white, then given a nice black, and it's also got a nice gloss coat to it, which is a plus. And if we take a look over here, you can see again pretty precise as far as the paint work and everything goes. Looks just as nice over there. Nice shot there from the front. That definitely looks really good. We have an articulated jaw, as we always do, and you can see the mouth can open pretty decent. You can also see the inside of the mouth sports a nice tongue sculpt. We have a pinkish tone with kind of like either a reddish wash or a darker pinkish wash in there. And then you can definitely see it's a darker pinkish tone as you move up there into the back of the throat and up into the upper part of the jaw. Very impressive fine detail in there as well. And the teeth are also sculpted pretty nicely and also painted pretty nicely. You don't really see any sloppiness or anything. Maybe slightly here and there, but not enough to really complain or anything. The eye is also placed quite nicely over here on this side. So very beautiful head sculpt in both the sculpt again and beautiful paintwork as well. As you move a little further back, you can see the ear for our Carnotaurus. You can also see some ridges and osteoderms and stuff picking up, because of course it does have that. That's pretty much how we always see Carnotaurus portrayed, and you can see the darker tone running down along the spinal column. You continue to see more of that patterning, but I like that we have kind of like a darker variation of a reddish tone here in the back, and those ridges running down the spinal column seem to have almost like a black tone to them. But then you also have a really gradual transition as you move down to a lighter tone here on the side of the neck and in the side of the stomach. I also see that we have a nice dark wash on this, which is something I've been asking Haolonggood pretty much in every review to bring back, and it is nice to see them doing that from time to time. I believe they also had it on another figure recently. I I think maybe it was the Dinosaur. I can't really remember, but I remember seeing it on another figure. So definitely hyped to see that they at least included it on the Carnotaurus, and fingers crossed they keep doing that. But as you move down, you can see again the patterning here in the neck looks really nice, very natural as far as the application of the paint. You can see lots of creasing and wrinkling. The Carnotaurus has its head turned ever so slightly to its right, so that also looks really nice. We also have kind of like some hanging skin down here in the underside of the neck and throat region, which is pretty cool. There's also some pinkish tones there in the underside of the throat, which is really nice. Lots of very impressive skin detail here on the underside of the throat, leading down into the chest area. You could actually see some really cool scale detail there in the chest, as well as I almost lost it, but as well as a big bulky chest in general right there. Moving down here into the side of the Carnotaurus, we see more of those osteoderms, more of that dark wash, making sure the detail pops very nicely, specifically right here as you lead down toward the arm. You can see how nice that scale detail honestly just jumps off of the sculpt. And again, I love the variation of color. You can see how it kind of, we have like this darker variation of red. You kind of see it show back up here, but it's not present here, not so present here. Kind of shows back up again as you lead toward the thigh as well. So lots of really nice paint work on this figure, and of course the really subtle addition of that patterning. I like that it's super light. It's not very vibrant as far as that patterning goes. It just gives it, in my opinion, a very realistic look. As you move down into the arms are held into the body quite nicely, but unfortunately we actually have nails painted on our Carnotaurus, but in fact Carnotaurus did not have claws on the hands, so we really shouldn't have any paintwork on the hands at all. It should just be the fingers. So a little bit of a downside as far as that goes. I could probably paint over that to kind of take the coloration of those claws away, but it's not the end of the world. As you move back here into the stomach region, you can see a ton of skin wrinkles. The leg is kind of taking a step forward, so it would probably be scrunching that skin up, definitely creating that look in that area. As you move back, you see more of the osteoderms. They take a slight break here for a moment before picking back up again out into the tail. You've got the hip bone there nicely shown. Also some very impressive size to the thighs here, very muscular for sure. You've got, again, more of the variation of color as well as that dark wash moving down. Lots of skin detail, again showing the skin kind of stretching off of the back of the thigh, and again just showing off the movement of our Carnotaurus. Moving down, you have the knee, and then as you move down a little further, you can see a really beautiful foot sculpt. Very nice, very bird-like foot sculpt with some nice scoots down the front of the feet, down into the toes. Extremely vibrant scale detail down there as well. And man, that is a really nice looking foot sculpt for a Carnotaurus. And you've also got nicely painted nails. This time we do need nail paint, and we have black for the nails down here. And you can also see dew claws are painted. And then as you move back up, you can see how the skin is stretching off of the thigh here and leading up into the tail. You can also see that we have more of that kind of lighter sort of a tan coloration as we lead out. Again, very nice transition up to the reddish tone up there. More of that really subtle patterning as you move out. The tail is, for the most part, pretty straight out. It's not very curved, a slight curve to it. I believe Carnotaurus actually might have had a little bit of a thicker tail, mostly starting up here. So it's a little bit thin compared to what Carnotaurus probably should have, but it still looks pretty good. And then as we move over here, you can see again a little bit of difference because the Carno has its head now again slightly turned away from us. So you see the skin stretching a little bit more so. Still quite a bit as far as like wrinkling and creasing goes, but I think maybe not quite as much as we had seen on the initial side. Then moving down a little further, you can again see the arms are held into the body very nicely. You can also see again we do have nail paint, unfortunately. Over here, I think the biggest difference compared to the initial side that you're going to see is the fact that the leg is trailing, which opens up the stomach a little bit more, shows us the detail a little nicer, and also shows the skin kind of stretching off of the stomach region for the Carnotaurus. The leg, again, like I said, is trailing. Very nice leg sculpt, nice fine detail within the leg. You've got a big bulging calf muscle back there. You can see how the toes are just kind of leaving the ground, showing off the fact that the Carnotaurus is taking a very nice step. And then again, we lead out into the tail, which, like I said, has a pretty straight out tail with just a slight bend. The underside also sports some very nice fine detail. We have some variations of pinks and stuff down here on the underside as you move back up again toward that really beautiful head sculpt for our Carnotaurus. The horns up here on the top of the head are also painted with a darker variation of brown. I do have a little chip to the paint right there on that one horn, but doesn't look too bad or anything. I may actually touch that up just to kind of, make that disappear. But overall, that is a gorgeous looking Carnotaurus. And then we've also got the other paint variant here. Now this one, of course, is the exact same sculpt. There's no difference between the sculpts, just different paint apps, so that's all we really need to go over. And you can see we have some like very nice grayish tones here in the face. Similar, of course, patterning to what we had seen on the other one, where we have like the darker tone there around the eye, kind of darker tones running down the front of the snout. Also a lighter tone here for the lower jaw. The inside of the mouth, sports pretty much the same color. Yeah, you can see again a light pink for the, well, you could if my camera would focus on it. There we go. A light pink for the tongue, a reddish wash in there, and again we transition and change to a darker variation of a pink as you move through the rest of the mouth, and you can see a very nice glossy look to the inside of the mouth. The teeth are again painted really nicely. I would say actually even better on this one than the first one. The eyes are painted the same, where you have a white and a black pupil, and both are placed pretty nicely and look really good. As you move back here into the neck, you can see that we again have the grayish tones, and then again the grayish tones down here, but we have kind of like a variation of a brown running down here through like the center. So it's kind of a little bit different compared to the other one, and I would say this one maybe would be, I don't know, it's hard to tell. Sometimes it's really obvious which one would be the male, which one would be the female. I was going to say this one would be the male, but at the same time, I actually think maybe this would be the female. But you can also see here on the underside of the throat, you have a bit of a darker tone running down through the throat region as you lead down to this kind of like light tan variation of color that you have down here on the underside. Again, painted nails on this one, even though it doesn't actually have nails on the hands. So a little bit of a downside again for that one, but you can continue to see we have that same kind of very subtle patterning as you move down through the course of the figure. Same deal as we move back here into the legs, sort of like a striping effect moving down through the spinal column. Again, those ridges there, those osteoderms moving along the spinal column are painted with a darker tone, and then you get kind of darker grays as you lead down through the course of the leg down into the foot. The nails are again painted with a glossy black, which looks really nice. And then you lead up into the tail, and pretty again similar to the first paint scheme. We have the darker tones here, which in the other one was kind of reddish tones. This one it's grayish tones, and then the lighter tone, which on the other one was a slightly different shade of like a light brown, whereas this one's a little bit of a brighter kind of a light tannish tone as you lead out. Again, we continue to have that light patterning moving through, and then pretty much the same thing again over here. You're really not going to see a whole lot of difference. You see a little bit of variation of browns actually on the underside, which I didn't notice right away, but I am definitely picking up on that right now. Again, we have the lighter tone here, that kind of like light tan, but you also have variations of browns on the underside of the Carnotaurus as well. Kind of actually almost a similar brown to what you see up here, but maybe a little bit darker. But yet again, an absolutely killer paint scheme for a gorgeous Carnotaurus. Even if there are some minor issues with it, it's definitely a really, really cool figure. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about, if we get it perfectly on the end of the tail, about 8 3/4 inches or around 22 centimeters. And then for a height, the highest point would be the horn, about 3 1/4 inches, or pretty much almost on the dot, but maybe slightly under 8.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Golovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Carnotaurus. And you can see, again, it's got pretty much the size range you would expect for a Carnotaurus. I don't usually expect massive figures when it comes to a Carno, so at 1/35th scale specifically, which is what this is, again, I would definitely expect it to be right here in this size range. We've also got a Mattel Dilophosaurus and Mattel Velociraptor stepping in here to show you again the size of the Carno and the fact that he isn't all that huge. Also, if you have the Safari LTDU Tyrannus, here is a comparison next to that, showing that the Carno is a little bit bigger. Then for a Haolonggood comparison, we have the Nasutoceratops stepping in here next to the Carnotaurus. I think the Nasutoceratops is probably one of the more popular releases from them, so I thought would be a good one to bring in for a comparison. We've also got the Haolonggood Allosaurus here next to the Carnotaurus to show you how these two size up next to each other, as well as the Haolonggood Ouranosaurus for yet another comparison. We also have the TNG Carnotaurus here next to the Haolonggood version, and I can definitely say that the Haolonggood version looks quite a bit nicer than the TNG version. There is also a Mojo Fun Allosaurus for another comparison next to the Carno. You can see very similar in size to the Mojo Allosaurus. We've also got the PNSO Carnotaurus, which you can see is a bit larger. than our Haolonggood version, definitely a good bit taller as well as longer than the Haolonggood Carnotaurus. And for one final comparison, we have the Papo Carnotaurus as well, stepping in here next to our Haolonggood version, just to show off again that they are pretty similar in size, even if they are posed quite differently. So this brand new Haolonggood Carnotaurus is another absolutely beautiful figure from them, and maybe I'm a little biased because I am such a massive fan of Carnotaurus, but I think that the figure that we have this time is absolutely incredible, and also very nice when it comes to the paint apps. I kind of like the fact that they, release some figures with really flashy paint schemes, and some figures like this with more naturalistic, maybe kind of more natural. I don't know. I mean, dinosaurs could have pretty flashy paint schemes, but less flashy paint schemes, we'll put it that way, because again, it's fun to just have a nice healthy dose of both. But the paint apps of the Carno that we have here both look really nice, again giving us almost a male and a female version. I definitely prefer the reddish version over the grayish version. It just looks nicer to me, and it has that dark wash. I don't think that the grayish version has the dark wash, so a little bit of a bummer for that one. But it just looks so much more realistic and lifelike when they include that, and they did a very good job of including that dark wash on this reddish Carnotaurus. The reddish version just generally has a really cool look to it. Again, we always see Carnos painted with reddish tones, or at least often we do, and it just looks so good in that dinosaur. So the fact that they have given us that kind of reddish paint scheme for one of the two is really nice. But the grayish version also looks really good, definitely in my opinion. Now looking at the two kind of standing together, I feel like the grayish version definitely looks more female to me, and the reddish version is more male. We have really nice sculpts for both, of course. The fine detail is fantastic, and the pose is just a nice natural kind of a walking pose, nothing too dramatic or crazy, so that also looks quite nice. There are a few minor downsides to the figure, like the fact that the tail is a little bit too thin, and the fact that we also have nails painted on the hands because it wouldn't have had that. But outside of those areas, I think they still look really, really good, and are probably two of my favorite Carnotaurus figures now in my collection. And you also have an articulated jaw, which is always fun. So if you are interested in grabbing these brand new Haolonggood Carnos, make sure you check the link that I will include in the description. That will take you straight to Lana Time Shop, which is exactly where I purchased mine. So make sure you check that link, go grab yourself these Carnotaurus figures, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.